So I'm going to make some dog cookies. There's really not much of a recipe to this. It's more or less measurements, so it's just kind of going by feel. I've got 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and I'm going to add 2 cups of whole wheat flour, more or less. Just an FYI, keep your whole wheat flour in the freezer. It doesn't go rancid. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of garlic powder. Supposedly that helps with fleas. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of parsley. As I said, it's more or less. That helps to freshen the breath. I'm going to add probably a half a teaspoon, if that, 1/4 teaspoon maybe, of baking powder. You don't really need them to rise much. And we're going to mix that together. You don't need salt because dogs don't really need salt. And then we're going to add a couple of tablespoons of olive oil. It just helps to bind everything together, and the olive oil is good for the dog's coat. As I said, I don't measure anything, it's just... And I'm going to add some peanut butter. The dogs love peanut butter, so I'm going to add a little bit of peanut butter to this batch. I don't normally, but we're going to. Just a couple of tablespoons. Clean out my jar here and see what's left in here.
Yeah.
Don't need a lot, just a little. Add a little flavor in there. And we're gonna, I dissolve usually about a couple of teaspoons of beef bouillon in a cup of warm water. And we'll start using that to bind it. I'm going to add 2 eggs. Again, that's good for the dog's coat.
Yep.
Okay. I added another heaping tablespoon of peanut butter just because there really wasn't much in that jar. I've got 2 heaping teaspoons, just regular teaspoons of dry bouillon dissolved in a cup of warm water. I'm going to add that, and it'll take more liquid. Now you can use chicken bouillon or you can use plain water, whatever you want.
We just spoil the boys a little bit.
Yeah, it just adds a little more flavor for them. I've never found a dog that did not like my dog treats. And what you want is a dough that you can roll out. So you want it to be like the consistency of a rolled cookie dough. And this isn't going to take a lot more water, but it's going to need a little bit more. So I never really measure the water because it varies every time. Just on how much water your flour will absorb. So
the humidity.
Yep. As I said, you want to be able to roll that, but You don't want it too mushy either. If you get it too mushy, you can always add more flour. This is not an exact recipe, it's more or less. And we're just about there.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna roll this out on a floured, one more water, floured cutting board, floured, whatever you want to call them. And you can cut them into any shape you want. I do have some dog bone cookie cutters, so I'm going to use those. And honestly, at this point, it's just easier to get the hands in there. Make sure everything's kneaded in. And it's just about the right consistency that I want. My board, and we'll start rolling. I'm gonna preheat the oven to 250. You're gonna bake these on a cookie sheet for about 30 minutes and then flip them over and bake them for another 30. At that point they should be fairly dried out. If they aren't, you wanna go in like 15-minute increments and just keep checking them. They don't have to be perfectly hard, but you want them close to hard. They will harden some when they cool, but if they're still soft, they'll mold in the bag. They won't keep for any period of time. They'll still be good and you can still use them, but you'll have to watch them so that you probably keep some in the freezer that way. But if you bake them till they're hard, they'll keep for months. I've never had any last that long, but the dogs love them.
Uh-huh.
So let me get my board to roll them out and we'll pick it up. What are you grumbling about, Otis?
Go ahead.
So I've got the dough all rolled out. I got the different cookie cutters. I'm going to do some of each size. Just kind of dip your cutter in flour every couple of times, and so that it doesn't stick, and keep your cuttings as close together as you can get them. Just put them on a cookie sheet. You don't have to grease the cookie sheet. I've never had them stick. As I said, however thick you make them, depends on how long these will take to bake. The thicker they are, the longer they take to dry out. You're not so much cooking them as you're drying them. And it'll just take me a few minutes to cut all these. And then when I'm done, we'll roll out the next ball of dough and do the same thing. So I've got them, this batch all cut out, so just kind of pull them away and arrange them on here. You can put these close together because they will not spread. So you can fit a lot on this tray. This whole thing should fit here. So there's my first tray. That's going to go in the oven. I could fit a few more, but I'm just going to go ahead and use that tray and put that one in the oven at 250. All the trimmings that I had left over I'll smush back together, and I'll mix that into the next batch of dough and knead that in, and we'll roll out that next other half and do the same with them as I've done with this, and we'll get them started. So we're just going to roll it out. You just kind of keep your board dusted and you roll it like you would pie dough or cookie dough or whatever. Roll it as thick or as thin as you want. Just keep your board dusted and your rolling pin dusted with the peanut butter and the olive oil in there. It should be enough that it won't stick, but just to be sure. rolls pretty good. And how much you get out of this depends on how big you make them.
And how thick you have it.
And how thick you make it. But I roll it fairly thin. It's been 30 minutes and I'm just going to flip them. They're still pretty soft. You can see how thick I've got them there. This is the easiest way to flip them, but you can use a turner.
It's easier to do it by hand.
It is. Since I've got them so close together, it's hard to get the turner in there. But if it gets too hot on your fingers, you can. We're going to flip all of them and then we'll do another 30 minutes and we'll see how dried out they are. They don't rise, they don't spread. They pretty much retain their shape, so that's why I said you can really put them close together and they don't get terribly brown. So we're going to go back in for another 30. The other tray is on the other shelf, and you just keep re-rolling all your scraps until you use up all your dough, and the other tray has a few more on it. This is the second tray that I'm flipping. After 30 minutes. They're hot. So this is the first tray. After the second round of 30 minutes, they're still pretty soft. I'm going to give them another 20 minutes. See where they are. So it's been another 20 minutes. They're still a little softer than I would like, even though they will harden some as they cool. I think I'm going to give them another 15 minutes. I'm going to flip them again. And we'll put them back in for another 15, and that'll be enough. This is tray 1. So it's been, oh, what did I do? 3 rounds of 20. Another 15. They're almost hard. So they're done enough. They're pretty firm to the touch. So we'll just let them set on the tray, let them cool, and they will harden as they cool. They're almost hard as it is. The second tray has got about another 14 minutes to go on its last round, and then they should be done as well. The dogs have already tried them and they've approved.